Okay, so I finished Worm. This obviously does not include Ward. It does not include Glowworm, which from what I understand is the short story collection, kind of, that's in between Worm and Ward. This is just the 31 arc story of Taylor Hebert and everyone else, I guess. I plan on doing Spec as a video and then Teneral as a video as we go on. I might end up just kind of combining them both here. I'm not 100% sure. If you're watching this video, which thank you by the way, but if you are watching this video, it'll say in the title whether this is just 30 and you'll see that 31 is there, or they'll be both together. What I do plan on doing regardless is I do want to do a couple tier list videos. I know I've talked about that. I want to do one for the characters. I want to do one for the arcs. And then at some point, when I've had a lot more time to just sit on the story and think about it, I know I said I want to rewatch all of my videos and just kind of go through and be like, okay, so what is some of the shit that I talked about that I got right, that I got wrong? What are some things that I didn't like at the time but like a lot more now, such as the way Brian is handled? Because I remember saying, I was like, dude, I love Gru. I'm glad he's still alive. I think he should have died instead of the second Trigger event. And coming around to it, I'm like, no. I actually really like the way that was handled. Or in the alternative, some things that I thought were fine, but am more negative towards, such as Aster. Even at the time, I was like, I get that there's a lot going on right now. This feels like something that should get more focus and more weight to it. And it doesn't. And I will also say, now that I'm done, I've been able to look at memes, and fucking Aster posting is so funny. Oh, you mean Taylor, if she's on the clock, she gets the Glock Heaper? Or you mean Taylor out of the womb into the Doom Heaper? That shit had me rolling so bad, but it's so funny. I wish... like what Taylor did to Aster, I wish that had more of an impact in the story than it does in memes. I don't think that's an unreasonable criticism, but it's something I want to do. Like, rewatch my videos, see what did I think, what have I changed my mind on, and what are my overall thoughts and opinions. I really liked it, but what are my overall thoughts and opinions? And segueing into that, what are my thoughts and opinions on Arc 30, on Spec, on Khepri? There was a part, it was around the crab dance, and I don't remember what arc that was. It was like 5, 6, maybe 4. It's somewhere in that early, I know it's pre-Leviathan. And I remember talking to my friend about it. It was either before I got to the crab dance or a little bit after. I'm sorry, I fucking love the crab dance. It like never comes back. I think the only other time I've seen her control something not a bug aside from Khepri was her trying to control Krill at the end of... No, not 29. I think it was at the end of 27 after the oil rig, and after reading the final interlude, man, the oil rig hits different. If you know, you know. And if you're watching this, I assume you know. Like, we'll get to that when we get to 31, but... Gotta pour one out, man. That one hurt. Anyways, what was I talking about? The crabs. Okay. I remember talking to my friend about it, and the way he had explained it was, essentially the way Taylor's power works is anything she sees as a bug, she can control. Crab, it's basically a bug. I mean, it's not one-to-one, but more or less so she can control it. My immediate response, and I remember saying this, I don't remember if I put this in a video, but I remember saying to him, I was like, so, does that mean if she starts to see people as bugs, she can control them as such? And he's like, no, that's not how it works. It has to be, something like that. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then I get to Arc 30, and I'm like, So I was right. Now, obviously, there's more moving pieces to it. It is definitely not something Taylor could do on her own. She had to get her shard fucked with and her head fucked with. Thanks, Amy. And I'm assuming kind of what it did was that was what let her bypass the Manson effect. Sorry, I just got a quick thing from my boss. I'm gonna pause this real quick so I can check it. Okay, sorry. It's something I'll have to do a little bit later. No problem. Bugs, Kepri, Amy, bypassing the Manson effect. I think that's where I was. There's a part I don't want to say this. This is one of those arcs in Worm where I go, yeah, this one's my favorite. I have a lot of favorite arcs, which is why I really want to do the tier list. And again, like even when I do it, I know I'm gonna say this is not definitive because I can always change my mind, but these are the contenders for my favorite. This is the one I'll crown. I have a feeling it'll probably be arc 8 because of just how much I loved like just all the shit that happens in that arc. This to me is a contender, but I don't think it would win. And I want to talk about the things I disliked before I start talking about why it's amazing. There's points, especially near the end, which makes sense with her deteriorating mental state, where it was very hard for me to tell what the fuck was going on. When she's like, okay, there's this person, and I don't know their name, so I'm just going to refer to them as such. A lot of it is really easy to follow. But there were definitely times where I'm like, okay, who the fuck is the blonde girl? Like, is that Canary? Is that Lisa? I think it is. And then, like, when Imp appears beside her, and I'm like, I'm assuming that's supposed to be Imp. Is there just someone else that was there that I didn't realize was there? Because she's saying, oh, this person's been talking to me, and this voice. Is that Imp? Was that Canary next to her singing? Like, there's a few moments like that where I thought it was a little hard to follow, especially when she's like, okay, this is like the final team that I need to kill him. I need the changers. I need someone who could do this, someone who can do this, someone who can do this. Like, I think I'm following this. That one's definitely Dinah. That's definitely Labyrinth. She got a cut. I did get to see the Travelers again. I was happy about that. But I was like, she got some of the Travelers. I know she grabbed Oliver. And I think she grabbed Ballistic for the end, but I don't remember. There was a lot of moments like that. I'm like, I get why it's like this. And I know this is something I've talked about in other arcs. It's the double-edged sword of trying to adapt Worm. Because there's some moments, and the moment that always comes to mind to me is the Mist with Jack and Bonesaw, where not knowing who they are until Lisa turns around and goes, don't swear. I remember, like, I was taking a walk. I, like, stopped and gasped when that happened. It was so exciting. It was like, holy shit, this is crazy. You can't get that in, if it's adapted. I mean, maybe in a VN if you, like, don't show the sprite of who's talking. But I feel like in any kind of, let me try that again. In television, whether it's live action or animated, you're gonna see who they are, so it's slightly, the impact to me is a little bit lost. Here, I feel like the impact of Taylor losing her mind is something that would not translate very well, because it's literally like, as she's thinking just regular thoughts, they start to become incoherent. She's like, word, other word, oh god, like, they're speaking to me and I can't understand what they're saying. You're not quite gonna get that. But on the other hand, it is gonna be a lot easier to follow, and again, like, for me, I had trouble following it near the end. I think it would be helpful, so I feel like there's pros and cons. The way they beat him, I love it. I love that something they've said throughout this whole Gold Morning arc, his biggest weakness is he's human. He's human enough through osmosis of dealing with us for 33 years. He's genuinely developed human habits and emotions, but he's not super aware of them. He's never had to deal with or confront his humanity, deal with or confront emotions. Our biggest, his biggest weakness is we can take advantage of that. and the psychological warfare of just turning Bastard to look like the entity. Oliver does that, and how it just breaks him. Like, one of my favorite moments in Worm, definitely a phrase I know I've said a lot, is in 29 when he's holding the vials. And it's something they talked about here where he's used his power to find, like, he's used the Contessa power to find the world in which he's reunited with his partner. And that was it. That was how he was reunited with her. And he doesn't say anything, like, he doesn't cry. And as I'm reading it, I can feel his grief. Like, his grief, confusion. It is easily one of my favorite scenes. When I do my tier list of characters, like, I know Panacea is my favorite. I know I say it all the time, and, like, she is. Zion is a genuine contender to be my favorite character. Sorry, I thought I said character twice. He's a genuine character to be my favorite character. You know what? I'm glad. He is a genuine contender for that spot. And honestly, I don't feel like I give Taylor enough credit, because I know I shit on her a lot. I'm like, I don't know. This was annoying. This was stupid. This was really stupid. Like, don't get me wrong. She has to be one of my favorite characters. Because I feel like her decision making, whether I agree with it or not, and a lot of the times I don't, I find it really interesting. And I think when I make my final video, I might end up doing other Worm videos. I'll talk about it in other videos. I really want to structure it, and I know how funny that sounds, me having structure in a video, but kind of structure it around answering a particular question. Is Taylor a good person? Because I'm not sure yet. Even in this arc where I'm like, okay, you just saved the human race, and not just on Earth, throughout the universe. But look at what it took to get there, and how easy it was for you to do it. And granted, not all of that is her, because as it goes on, I'm like, there's a point, and I'm not exactly sure where. At the very least, it's when she starts attacking him. I feel like at that point, Taylor is not in charge anymore. That's the Queen Administrator. And I find that really interesting. Again, like the fact that his biggest weakness is his humanity, and the way Taylor beats him is by throwing away hers. There's something really interesting to me about that. It's beautiful, it's tragic, it's fucked up, it's so interesting. I guess another question I kind of want to ask is, in addition to, like, is Taylor a good person? What is the theme of the story? The easy answer to me is it's about consequences. It's about cause and effect. It's a lot like T&D. If you do something even with the best of intentions, it doesn't mean your intentions will be read as such. It doesn't mean things will go the way you want. But I feel like there's this other theme about just, like, the underlying nature of humanity, and how humanity, like, you know, we can see the best in people, but we can also easily see the worst. See any conversation in this story about superhero politics, which is one of my favorite aspects of it. The fact that, finally, this was it. Everyone working together. But, like, against everyone's will is really interesting to me. Like, again, from that thematic perspective. And I will say that is something I had spoiled, kind of. Because I heard that line before. Like, I was watching some animation for Worm. I was like, I should not be here right now, but this is cool. And that line was in one of the comments. And I remember reading it and thinking, okay, this is a very Endgame style ending. Which, by the way, I think I've said before in a video that Worm came out in 2017. That's wrong. That's when Ward came out. Worm came out in 2011. I thought it was like a 2017 story that, for whatever reason, took place in 2011. That is not the case. It takes place when it was written. So this is pre-Endgame doing all, like, the portals to beat the, like, giant alien, man. Like, fuck, that's neat. I think that's really cool. But to my point, I was aware of that line. So my understanding was this was an arc about, like, just everyone is here. All of Taylor's friends, enemies, and those in between are coming together, putting aside their differences to fight a common foe. Like, with an Endbringer situation. And it is. But it is against their will. They do want to be there, but Taylor is taking away their choice in how they do it. She's not letting anyone retreat. She's not leaving anyone to their own devices. And given how much of a control freak Taylor is throughout the series, and not just, in the sense of her power, although that is kind of an interesting way of looking at it, she always has to be in control. She always has to be with the one with the plan. It's always, I don't care what you want, this is what I think is right, and damn it, I am correct. This makes a lot of sense for her character. And when I got to that line in context of, they're all under her thrall, they are her bugs, they are her army, finally, everyone was working together. I got this fucking pit in my stomach, and I loved it. I loved how I was like, dude, this is gonna be this really hype, like, fuck yeah, humanity moment, and instead it's I don't know if I like this, which means I loved it. What I love about this arc is that I've kind of talked about it a lot already. It's very much, it's extreme, but it is very much in Taylor's character for me to do everything that she has done in this arc. Her throwing away her humanity to exploit Zions is really interesting to me. I think I was about to say something, but I don't remember what it is. Oh no, it's just, and then the deterioration, of her mind. Even as I said, it makes some aspects of it kind of unclear. It's so compelling to listen to. I loved it. It's sad, it's tragic, it's fucked, but you see her go from okay, I'm aware, I know who people are, I can talk to them, to oh shit, I can't read anymore, to oh shit, I can't understand what people are saying anymore. You're speaking English and I can't understand that. Into I don't know who anyone is and I don't know their importance to me. And you get that scene with Glastic Winier, with the Fairy Queen, telling her, you need to have anchors to keep yourself. And then she forgets them. And then you got her talking about Gru's cabin. Ow, by the way. But talking about Gru's cabin, just I know there's something important in there, and I have to protect it with everything I have, but for the life of me, I can't remember what. It's, again, I know I keep using the same words, but to me, it is so interesting, and it's tragic, and I loved it. I didn't quite catch everyone who died. Some of the names I recognized. They talked about Ash Beast Abyss. I don't remember if that was a character we'd seen before. I don't think so, but he died. I was a little upset with Trickster, because I liked Trickster a lot, but damn, he got done dirty after the Echidna arc. And I get it, but damn. Lady Photon, Leviathan, I think, minus the Seamerg, I think all of the Endbringers. I think I actually wrote a list of everyone that I know. Oh, Thala, Revel, Alexandria again, so Pretender. At least I think she died. She might have just been badly injured, but I think she died. I think those were all the ones that I personally noted. What the hell does that say? Sorry, I'm just trying to actually look at my notes. Oh yeah, that scene. The scene when Zion finds Khepri, grabs her by the throat, and again, not a word is said, but you can feel the I hate you. And I am going to make you suffer for what you're doing to me. And takes her to the Undersiders. I'm going to kill them right in front of you. And you won't be able to stop me. I'm going to start with her. And then he just blasts Rachel. He misses because Taylor, using Clairvoyant and using Doormaker, does a bunch of shit. Also, by the way, that shit was cool as fuck. Just, opening portals everywhere, blah, 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 blah. I loved it. I really liked that moment. Again, just feeling Zion's cruelty. Like, you want me to be human and embrace my humanity? Here you fucking go. Beautiful. Let's see. Okay, I gotta pause. The dogs are wanting to go outside, so give me a second. Okay, let's see. Where was I? Finally, everyone working together. Oh yeah, there's another line. It's after they kill Zion, where she just says, I was finally free to lose my mind. That one kind of hurt too. I won't lie. And then we get that final scene with what does that say? Okay, yeah, that shit I already talked about, yeah. The final scene with her and Contessa. Final scene, there's a whole other arc. But the final scene of Arc 30 and of Taylor's first person narration of her talking to Contessa, because of course the only person that can communicate with her is Contessa with her own let me move my mouth this way to communicate with you shit, which I fucking love. As I said, I think it's super neat. And them talking about regret. This felt like the ending of Persona 3 with talking to Igor at the end of the game, just like, okay, this was your story. You promised me at the beginning you would have no regrets. I hope and trust that you didn't. Reflect on your story and go end it. This had a very similar feeling of like, hey, like this was, you made a lot of decisions. You made a lot of tough decisions. Do you regret it? Would you do this all again? And Taylor going, no, I don't think I would. I made a lot of really, really bad decisions. And I don't think I would do it all again. Like, I mean, this shit to kill Zion, like, I think I would do that. I think she would, but even then, like, with how fucked her brain is, like, I don't know. You've got her talking, and again, Contessa's like, there's a lot of different viewpoints on you right now. Some see you as the hero who saved the world. Some see you as like a slaver, essentially. A lot of people see you as a bully. Who are you? Are you Skitter? Are you Weaver? Are you Capri? Which is the only time it was said in the story. At the very least, in that arc. I don't remember if it was said in 31. I don't think it was. Who are you, Taylor Hebert? The Fairy Queen talked to you about anchors. Do you remember yours? I'm not sure I do. And, like, okay, what do you think should happen to you? Do you think you should die? Do you think you deserve to live? And what Contessa is telling her is, I right now am your judge, jury, and executioner. If you can convince me that you're still human, that you're not a monster, I can let you go and I can take care of you. If you fail to do so, I won't let you go, but I will take care of you. And Taylor kind of comes to the conclusion that I don't think you should let me go. Like, there's still some me in here, and I can feel it. And I think this is a scene where she's talking about her passenger, and I think the passenger at that point is Taylor herself. And that is fucking cool as hell. And again, that's one of those things that I don't think would quite be conveyed in an adaptation, but it works so fucking well here. And Contessa shoots her twice in the back of the head. And the last thing the Taylor sees are just so many stars. And that's how Spec ends. That is how Taylor's first-person narration ends. What a fucking ride that arc is, man. Like I said, there are parts where I'm like, I can't really tell what's going on. And I wish I could. But the dichotomy of him not being able to deal with his humanity and her discarding it to take advantage of him, I think is really cool and interesting. Excuse me, just the breaking of Taylor throughout this arc is so compelling. It's tragic, it's sad, it's fucked. And do I want to talk about this now or in general? How long has this been? 36. Oh, it's only 26. Fuck yeah, fuck it. Let's just go ahead and talk about Teneral. Let's do 30 and 31 together. No bullshit. So there's, I think it was 5 or 6 chapters. Here, let me actually check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 chapters in Teneral, so essentially 6 different epilogues. The first is with the Fairy Queen, which is, okay, she's getting therapy from Jessica because Jessica's goated as hell. That was a really fun scene. I also saw, like, a bunch of memes about Jessica, and it's like, okay, Jessica is such a good therapist. If you're around her too long, you'll untrigger. Like, that's neat. I thought that was fun. How she is going through therapy to kind of rejoin society, and how ultimately she has joined the Wardens, which is essentially the new PRT. It's under Chevalier. She has rebranded herself as Valkyrie, which I like. Like, I think it's just a neat name. And the way she explains it is, I am shepherding the souls of the dead to the afterlife. I liked that. I thought that was really fucking cool. So that was her chapter. After that was, I think that was Imp. So that was Imp and the Heartbroken, where she is actively reading, like, classical literature, reading history to become a more, like, well-cultured villain. At one point when she's fucking with a dude, she's like, I'm not an assassin, I'm more of a shit fucker-upper. Like, I got a great laugh out of that. The book she's reading at the end, she starts 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and one of the Heartbroken just starts snickering. I'm like, I get that joke. That's fucked. That's not okay. As the possibly only cherished stan, that one kind of hurt, but it was funny. There's that one line, what was his name, Nero? I like that line he had when he's talking to, like, that one dude. Do you have any idea how little, or like, what is the line from Batman? Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down? When he's talking to that old man who's giving him lip, and he just looks at the dude. You're insulting me. It's like, you have stolen from me and are insulting me to my face in my territory, and you dare me to do my worst. I liked that line a lot. Like, that was pretty chilling as fuck. What else happened? We got her Regent doll, which I liked that. I thought that was really sweet, and we see it again later, or another Regent doll. I'm assuming Perion's just making a bunch for her. I really liked that touch. Actually, look at my notes again. Is there anything else I really wanted to say about him? Oh yeah, the fucking. Okay, so just all of her interactions with the kids were really fun. There's the one who doesn't talk much, then there's the one who's just wants to see people die. I could take hold of the rope. Nope, not doing that. I learned from last time. That was funny as fuck. So one of them, her power is she can put rules on people where it's like, okay, you know, to go to the bathroom first, you have to do this kind of shit. Which they're using, like, okay, if you try to hurt people, this is the shit you have to do. And one of them is the guy just starts singing, I'm a little teapot, short and stout. And I was cracking the fuck up. Where there's this dude who's like being held above a death trap, is freaking out. This little girl with these massive teeth jumps in front of him. Is she going to eat my face because she looks like she's going to eat my little teapot? Comedy fucking gold. Imp grew on me so much as a character. Like, I did not care for her in her early chapters. Like, during the Slaughterhouse 9 arc, I found her really annoying. I'm gonna be completely honest. By the end of the story, I'm like, dude, you're one of my favorite characters. You're so much damn fun. Just shout out to Imp. The next one is Colin and Dragon, which essentially boils down to they are living together, they are happy, they are the best ship. Oh, sorry, I gotta let the dogs in real quick. Okay, resuming. Colin and Dragon, best couple, best ship, absolutely love them. And Colin is working on Dragon's code to remove the shit that teacher put on her, which essentially leads to him using a former version of Dragon without teachers' restrictions, and that dragon subsumes the current dragon. Because with the restrictions, Dragon can't be a hero anymore because she can't stop teacher, can't stop people that teachers are working with. And as much as she wants to, settle down with Colin, she knows her calling is to help people, and she wants to do that, and Colin wants her to do that. So he is willing to kill, essentially, like, the love of his life, and all of the memories, not all of them, but a good chunk of the memories that they have shared together, to restore her as a hero. And he does, and she's, thankful of it, and is like, I know that I love you and am supposed to love you. We'll get there again, but thank you so much. And I'm like, I know I've advocated for, like, more character deaths. Like, there's a lot of character deaths in Worm, but I've even said that I was like, I mean, how much do some of these really matter? Even that list I was reading earlier, like, oh, hey, Photon Mom. Okay. Othala. Okay. Revel. Okay, that one I kind of know. And, like, that one kind of affected me, I won't lie. Trickster got to me because I really like Trickster. But, like, Ash Beast. Okay. But Colin and Dragon's relationship, man. Like, no. Come on. But I guess, like, it's, the way it's written, it sucks, but it'll be okay. And I'm like, it fucking better be. It fucking better be when I get to Ward. But this was definitely not my favorite of the interludes because of just how, like, I don't even say bittersweet, it's so bitter. But I got it. After that is Rachel. Rachel's settled in her other world and shit. Was it Barker or Biter? I don't remember which one. One of her underlings, like, you can tell the quality of a society by how bad the fast food is. I thought that was funny. She's basically like a sheriff, not in terms of actual law enforcement, just like, look, this is my territory, and anything that goes fucked in my territory, you got to answer to me. There's an amnesty, essentially, like, all villains, at least I think anyone who was there during Gold Morning, you get a clean slate and a fresh chance, which was a little interesting line. She's like, so, I'm not a villain anymore? No, you're whoever you want to be. And I liked that. I liked that a lot. They go back to Brockton Bay, and there's just like a bunch of rocks, but it's her memorial to Taylor, and you can tell just how much it means to her. And again, it's one of those things where, like, I've come... That was a fun way to end that sentence. I feel like my opinion of Rachel has definitely had its peaks and valleys, but I've really come to appreciate her and just her simplicity. Yeah, I made a monument for my friend. It's just a bunch of rocks, but I know what it means, and this is only for me and my, like, benefit, so I don't care if other people don't get it. I get it, and it means the fucking world to me. I think that's kind of really all I have to say about her. It's like there's a whole, like, fight scene, and I'm like, alright, this is, like, whatever. But, like, I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I was just checking anything else. Then the penultimate one is Teacher, which feels that it's less of an epilogue for Worm and more of like starting shit for Ward. Where it's like, all right, he's getting his own team together. He gets Ingenue. He's like, yeah, I'm done with Chevalier. This isn't working very well. And they joke about how things don't go well for her boyfriend. She's kind of like, honey, if you think things don't go well for my boyfriends, wait till you see what I do to my ex-boyfriends. How apparently in one of the Seamerg's guns there was like a baby. I guess it was like a baby Endbringer or some shit. I think Lung killed it, so the Seamerg might now be pissed. So I don't know what the fuck she does in Ward. I don't know what Teacher does in Ward. But it really kind of felt like we're setting up Teacher to be a major threat later. Satyr is there because he's still alive, and we know how much I really get invested in Satyr in the Vegas Capes. Like, this dude didn't do anything that I gave a shit about the entire story. At least with Teacher, I mean, I guess Satyr has kind of a cool power. Teacher's whole thing of like his thralls and people that he works with and fucks with, I think is kind of neat. Like the shit he did with Dragon was very clearly important, and the relationship with Saint. I felt like this dude. Oh, by the way, take. I never put a pin in, but before I forget, during Galactic with Sierra's, because that was her name. Maybe it's pronounced like more Sierra. With Sierra's, not to be confused with the other Sierra who like worked with the kids directly for Skitter. So I'm just gonna say Fairy Queen, Valkyrie, excuse me. In Valkyrie's interlude, she goes and visits both Bonesaw and Nilbog in prison, and I thought that was just kind of neat. Like I like those two characters, so that was fun. But anyways, Teacher felt like, at least to some degree, his presence in the story mattered. He wasn't just being built up for nothing, and I really felt like the Vegas Capes were just kind of being built up for nothing. Topsy Turvy never came back, so that was literally just like, here's a cool scene for the sake of having a cool scene. Like, cool. It didn't matter. It really didn't need to be there. It was fun filler, but it was definitely filler at that point in the story. And then, oh yeah, and Teacher wants to make like a parahuman run society. And then we get the final interlude. I think it's just interlude end. And it jumps back and forth between this teenage girl visiting a woman and the Undersiders. So I'm going to do the Undersider part first. They're having a group meeting. Just kind of see how everyone's doing. You know, make a toast to everyone they lost, to everyone who got to survive, and, you know, the fact that they succeeded. And then they have a libation for the dead. And, you know, Imp's got an Alec doll, and she brings up that, you know, like, it's here. What does she say? She's like, I don't know, it's a symbol or some shit. That's like kind of how she phrases it. Like, it feels important to have something of him here, something to represent him, because he's still a member of the team. And they have empty chairs for their other members, like Taylor and Brian. Because Brian didn't make it off the fucking oil rig. I remember, I think I said this when I made my video of it. When Brian stayed on the oil rig because Taylor fucking asked him to, I remember thinking to myself, this is a perfect time to kill Gru. And I hate that. But this is the perfect time to kill his character. Oh my god. He's going to die, and Taylor's not going to know about it until the Fairy Queen uses his spirit. And that did happen, but it was with Clockblocker instead, and I was like, oh, that one hurts too! Like, I guess I'm glad it's not Brian, but if I saw Brian there, I'd be so devastated. But no, Dennis! Like, that was how I felt reading that, but I was like, it's okay. At least he's in his cabin. At least he's retired. Brian might be the only one to survive the story, but that man deserves happiness right now. So right at the end to find out, it's like, we're glad Taylor never found out, but he didn't make it. And anytime we were talking about how he's retired, how he's happy, and then Taylor's like, that cabin is the most fucking important thing in the world. Boy, that hurt in hindsight. Oh. I didn't cry, pin in that, but that one hurt. And then we get the ending. And I say that my one problem with this interlude is I don't want to say I don't like the way it's written. I don't like the way it's constructed. Where it's like, okay, here's a scene with like this mysterious teenager, then we go to the Undersiders, then we go back here, and then back to the Undersiders, and then back here. I think especially at the end when they have the libation, and then you have Taylor's scene. Ow! And then it goes back to the Undersiders and then back to Taylor to end. I think it should have just stuck with Taylor. Because I think the Undersiders thing is like, like they toast everybody, say goodbye to Gru. And then when it goes back, it's essentially them just being like, okay, Dinah was there. We had to make sure Dinah knew that Taylor was still dead, blah, 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 blah. I don't think that really needed to be said. And also just their last bit is talking like, all right, teachers planning shit, blah, 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 blah. It felt, by adding that extra scene with Imp, Tattletale, and Rachel, I just default to calling her Rachel and not bitch, just like Taylor did, or Hellhound. Anyways, that turned the Undersider section as less of the epilogue to Worm and more of the start of Ward. And me personally, I would have preferred it to just stay the epilogue to Worm. I still want to read Ward, but I felt like, generally speaking, I was really satisfied with this ending and just would have liked to at least be able to say it kind of just, like, it has a good ending. You don't need to read the sequel, but I feel like with all the shit with Teacher and the rest of the Undersider section, it's like, no. We are setting up the sequel. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Then we get Taylor's. I also didn't cry when I read this. Pin is still there. Taylor is in another world. I don't remember if they said which one. It's Earth something. With her dad, because he made it. And I'm glad he did. There's a part of me that kind of wishes this part was narrated from Danny's perspective, solely because he had the first interlude of the story. I think that would have been it would have been a really neat bookend, but it really did need to stay with Taylor. I think that's fine. Taylor meets a version of her mom. This is another... Oh, I'm actually crying a little bit. This got me so close to crying when I was listening to it. Actually, no, I can't say that. I actually did have to read it, because there were some of these interludes that got fucked. So, like, the audio was fucked on YouTube. So I was like, I'm just going to read it. So I actually did read this section. It is very possible if I had listened to it, I would have just cried. It is easily one of my favorite scenes in the story. Is Taylor talking to, as she even says, like, you're my mom, but not my mother. And I just needed to, like, see your face and talk to you. Like, I know I'm, like, trauma dumping. I'm giving you a lot of shit right now. But I just needed this. And I don't want to, like, tell you everything, because it's a lot. It's a lot, and you don't need to know that. I needed to know that somewhere out there you were okay. And to just, like, see you. And then her mom gives her a hug. You know, it's fucking beautiful, man. Like, clearly, I'm crying. She talks about how, like, you know, like, my dad's right over there, and he really wanted to see you too, but just, he knows how much it will hurt afterwards, so he can't, and I totally get that. They talk about how they'll meet up with each other more in the future, because they would like to. So, the ending of the story is Taylor talking to her dad and saying, I think I can be able to be okay. And her dad saying, that's really all we can ask for. And later that day, so we're taking the pen out now. I was driving. I had like a doctor's appointment to go to, and I was listening to the radio. Mr. Brightside came on, and specifically, like the DJ. This was on Sirius XM. I don't exactly remember what channel. The DJ was talking about, like, oh yeah, we're about to play a killer song, blah blah blah. They said on Mr. Brightside, and I love Mr. Brightside, but it kind of got my brain thinking for whatever reason. I'm like, okay, like what are my favorite killer songs? Like, I love Mr. Brightside. I like a decent amount of the songs on the first album. I like Midnight Show a lot. I think my favorite on the first album, though, is probably All These Things That I Have Done, which now, saying that out loud, that's definitely a song that could fit Taylor Hebert. All these things that bitch has done, it's a laundry list. I'm also a big fan of a couple of songs from the I don't think I've ever listened to the second album, like, in its entirety, but I remember, like, was it the first or the second stint in Okinawa? I don't remember, but I remember in Okinawa, like on the bus route to school, I would hear, it's the He Doesn't Look a Thing Like Jesus song. I can't remember what it's called. When You Were Young, thank you. Hearing that song a lot, and I really like it. I'm also a very big fan of Read My Mind. And the song, though, of all these killer songs I was thinking of, I really like, the song that popped into my head was Human, which has been stuck in my head for like the past 3 days, by the way. And as I'm driving, I like mute the radio because I've got Human in my head, and I start singing, I'm like belting out the lyrics. You know, like, I did my best to notice when the call came down the line, etc., etc. That line in particular just been in my head the past 3 days. I'm like singing, and I'm like belting out the lyrics, and I'm thinking of Worm, and I'm thinking of Kepri in particular, and you know, that discarding your humanity to beat his, and being human, and even that first line, I did my best to notice when the call came down the line, because Taylor has like always answered the call whenever there was shit to happen. She was there to do it. It was the second verse. When you go, give my respects to grace and virtue, send my condolences to good, give my regards to soul and romance, they always did the best they could, and so long to devotion, you taught me everything I know, wave goodbye, wish me well, you gotta let me go. Sorry, I didn't really plan on doing the whole thing. I was just like, I'm feeling it. We're going. But as I was like singing that in the car, I was specifically thinking like of the Undersiders. And it's kind of getting me again. Taylor having to say goodbye to her friends. And thinking about the fact that a couple of them, she's saying goodbye to her friends forever. Because, I mean, there are portals and shit. Like, I don't know what happens in Word when it comes to that. Taylor, for all intents and purposes, is saying, I can't live in Earthbet anymore, but I've got me and I've got my dad, and we're going to make a life here. And I'm never going to see my friends again. She had to say goodbye to them. And singing that part and thinking about it, and like how much they meant to her. And the fact that, like, my boy Brian fucking died. That's when I cried. And that was the moment where I'm like, okay. Worm made me cry. It wasn't in the moment, but it was thinking about the story got me to cry. And as we've seen here, talking about it made me cry too. In 4K. I don't know the quality. But, the one question I was left with, aside from the ones I was talking about earlier, like, yo, what is the main theme of the story? Is Taylor a good person? Is this the ending she deserved? Is this ending too good for her? With all the shit that Taylor has done, regardless if it was Skitter, Weaver, Kepri, because as fucked up as it might be to say, I really liked... This is really fucked. I really liked reading her death scene. And it is just like the way that scene is written of Taylor reflecting upon her life and her decisions and the anchors that she can't even place anymore, and so many stars was a really strong death scene. And then going to like, okay, so she lived. Do I like that? And the more I thought about it, the more the answer was, yes, I do really like the death scene. I also really like that she lived. I do think she deserved that. Because that is what the point of the conversation with Contessa is. And Taylor saying, I chose death, but she gave me life anyways. Which to me does kind of make me wonder, is that kind of was that like part of Contessa's like test? Was if she chooses life, I'm going to kill her. But like if she chooses death, I'll let her live. Like almost in this fucked up way of, your punishment is I'm giving you whatever you didn't want. Congratulations, Kepri. You have to live with what you did. That's interesting to me. Take a shot. That's like the 20th time I've said that in this video. Or maybe it is just through talking to her, it's like, I think you're lucent. You're lucent enough. You're shining, Taylor, just like the so many stars. Like you're lucid enough that I think I can save you, and with the shit you just pulled, I want to be able to save you. That's more how I read it, but I do kind of like the idea of whatever Taylor picked, she would have gotten the opposite as her punishment. But there is that Taylor doesn't get off easy because she lived. She gets off harder because she has to live with everything she's done, who she is, and what she left behind, with who she left behind. It is an ending that is both hopeful, that while she doesn't have her powers anymore, and I'm assuming that, yeah, like Contessa gave her the, you're on the clock, Hebert, you're getting the clock, is like, it took away her powers, kind of like at the ending of, not Logan, Origins Wolverine, like the adamantine bullets, the special bullets fuck up his memory. Taylor is now able to live as a regular person, but in a different world. Congratulations, kiddo. You get a fresh start. Make the most of it. But you also have to live. You have to carry that weight. And I think that is a really good ending for her character, regardless if you see her as a good person or not. I think if you see her as a good person, it's she got to live, she gets a fresh start, I'm happy for you. If you see her as a fucking monster, it's you have to live with everything you've done. You don't get to get off easy by just dying. I like that. There's something almost fucked up about being able to say she got the cruelest fate possible, which is she has to live the rest of her life. But, that's Worm. That's Spec and Tenorol. That's arcs 30 and 31. I have my problems with them. Like I said, they're shit in Spectrum. Like, I know what's happening, but I kind of don't know what the fuck is happening. And I really didn't care for the parts in Tenorol, which are setting up the future rather than dealing with the present. But Spec was really good and really cool. And I feel like Taylor's ending really, like, I don't want to say it saves the epilogue, because I liked some of the other shit. Again, like, Imp's part was fucking perfect. The part for me that really mattered for the epilogue fucking delivered. I could not talk about it without crying. That's how you know it fucking delivered. I can't wait to make more worm-centric videos when I am doing those tier lists, when I'm like, all right, now let me make a thesis video about Worm. I am so excited to do that. But we'll get to that when we get to that. My next project, no pun intended, but fuck, as I've talked about a few times, I'm going to read Project Horizons. I'm going to do that before I read Worm. Or excuse me, before I read Ward. And I don't know if that was necessarily going to be the plan, but I feel like I have to after reading Worm because of how weirdly similar the two stories are. Like Taylor and it was when I was reading 22 when I know I talked about that because I was like, somehow Taylor's bullshit and her hypocrisy is making me love her character more, where Blackjack's pisses me off. And it really got me thinking, it's like, I know I want to reread Horizons. I have to do this now. And even some of the, the Project Horizon spoilers, I don't know how much anyone watching this video gives a shit about recursive friendship is magic Fallout fan fiction. That was a fun alliteration. But spoilers for the ending of that. I think the ending of Horizons is dog shit. Like the last 3 chapters are all really bad for different reasons, and I find that super interesting. Take a shot for the word interesting. 76 is just awful. It's stupid. It's stupid and I hate it without going into any details. 77 is cool on paper. And then when you look at a lot of the stuff, I know it's 80 chapters, but you got 2-parters in the epilogue, so by numbers. 77, there's cool shit, but I'm also like, okay, you're basically doing something that another chapter did better, and you're, by that chapter doing it better, you're doing this worse. I've come around to the final party of Horizons a lot over the years. I still don't know if I love it. I love it from a thematic stance, but in terms of my investment in the story, I'm like, not as much. The final dungeon itself was done earlier in that arc, and I'm like, if it had been saved solely for the final dungeon, it would have been amazing. But seeing it again, I'm like, I don't care about it as much. We just did the fucking moon. That was an amazing final dungeon for so many reasons. Doing the core again, I'm like, I'm so much less invested. The final fight with Amadi, I'm like, dude, did you read what you wrote in 75? That was so good. Like, that was a perfect fucking death for him with how much shit it took to get there. And then that's how we're doing it? That's how we're doing it? What the fuck? And then the Eater trying to pull some, like, we're in a Genjutsu Blackjack. And he's like, ha! We did that in Lucidity. And I got through it. I'm like, yeah, we did. What if we didn't? What if we got to that here? And now I'm sorry, I know this is a Worm video and I'm going on a Horizons rant. Oh boy, are we gonna get Horizons rants over the next few months? Clay can tell you all about those. I'll save that part specifically. But, and then the epilogue, I think, is really bad. Focuses on a lot of shit I don't care about. Gave me a lot of endings where I'm like, this is what we're doing? Oh, okay. And at the very end, in the author's notes, the author had said, by the way, it's not canon. Like, if you think of a different ending that you prefer, go with that. And I'm like, dude, I didn't like the epilogue, but at least stand on business. This genuinely reads like you made... No, I'm not going to go. This is about Worm. My point being, I really like the ending of Worm. And Taylor's ending and Blackjack's ending are kind of similar. But with Blackjack's, I was like, this fucking sucks. With Taylor's, I'm like, I feel like this is a very good ending for her character. And like I was saying earlier, regardless of how you interpret her, I think it's a fitting ending. There's, like, all the shit that happens in the climax. Like, I don't necessarily think, like, this is shit that happened better earlier. This is really cool. Even the fact of Taylor losing her mind and questioning her identity, Blackjack does the same shit. But with Blackjack, it's, here's shit right at the end of the story because she has Princess Luna's soul at the end of the story, and now it's, oh no, am I me, am I her? But being both of us sucks, and I don't know how to deal with that. Whereas with Taylor, and it really comes out of nowhere. It's not like, oh, it's been in me the entire time. No, it's literally a fucking MacGuffin, and now here's more shit for Blackjack to angst. Horizons rants. But with Taylor and the Queen Administrator, not even dueling for control, but being subsumed by it. And it's something that had been talked about throughout the story, at least in like the last third, last fourth, of Taylor talking to her passenger, trying to have some sort of like a symbiosis with it. And this is what it comes down to. Felt earned. It felt like this is something that has been built up. And again, take a shot. It's so fucking interesting to read. And there's other moments like that throughout the story. Even Brian's death. I'm like, this is like Glory's death done in reverse. And Glory's death is like, to me, a damn near perfect death scene. But then she survives her death and dies later, and it's significantly worse, and everything that made her death perfect is now fucked. Whereas Brian's was, here is a perfect death scene. I feel like it's a perfect setup for his character death. Turns out he didn't die, and then find out later, no, he actually did. It was perfect. Like, There's so many moments where the stories are really similar, and I feel like Horizons did it in a way that's bothered me for 10 years. And Worm did it in a way that made me go, I don't have to be bothered by this anymore. It's like, you've exorcised the demon. And it's because of that I went from, I need to reread Horizons because I want to know, am I too hard on it? Am I too lenient with it? How much will my opinion change after about a decade? And it went from that, like, this is an interesting project to consider. Again, no pun intended using project. But after reading Worm, I have to. I had said that I'm more excited to finish Worm because I can start Horizons. And I mean that with no disrespect to Worm. Like, I couldn't wait to see how it ended. I was excited for it. But I'm like, dude, this is an important thing for me to do. It's important because Worm was important. Like I said, though, I can't wait to do a final video. I can't wait to do a, now that I finished, let me talk about Worm as a whole video. I don't know when the fuck that's coming. I assume this year. We're early August, baby. I don't know when I'm gonna make it, but I'm excited for it. I'm so glad I finished it. I'm so glad it stayed good, great even, throughout its entire run. Problems here and there. Poe Body's perfect. Wild Bow, thank you for making this absolute fucking banger of a story. There are definitely things I know I will be taking from Worm in some of my own works, like interludes. I love interludes so much. And, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this really good fucking story. I hope Ward lives up to that level of quality and consistency. But even if it doesn't, even if some of the ending of Worm is like, let's set up the sequel, so if the sequel sucks, it's gonna make me like really upset. Taylor's story, assuming, I don't know how affected it's gonna be by Worm or by Ward, Taylor's story was fantastic, ended fantastic. Thank you for that.